We're so glad that you are here. And I think we have some really interesting topics for tonight. And it's sort of an interesting moment in our history. So let's get my good friend Aaron Keating in here. And Aaron, how you doing? It's good to see you.
I'm good. Hey, everybody.
Have you had a good week?
I have. Yeah. I mean, it's been every Wednesday. I'm always like, wait, is it already Wednesday?
I know.
Um,
Well, the days, they stick together.
yeah.
I mean, thank God for Sunday for me, but
Yeah.
I can't. I think this is what retirement might be like. That you can't tell the difference from one way to, and I keep
I know.
forgetting meetings and have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
am glad
strange.
for like the landmark. So, I mean, Wednesday is helpful because then I know it's midweek. Last week was kind of fun because, we had the Josh Babb
Yeah,
half or the marathon. I only ran 10 miles of it with him. That poor man ran 26.2 in a cul-de-sac. Still can't believe it.
that was pretty incredible.
It was, I mean, to see him do it, I was only going to run 3 to 5. And then he was powering through this horrific foot injury.
I know.
So
I heard
I had
that
to
his
go with
foot
him.
afterwards, it was not a
Oh,
pretty sight. That's what it's
no.
probably not even still today. So,
Oh, no, no, no.
so
Yeah,
you know, Josh, if you're watching, we're praying for your foot,
yeah, he
right?
was amazing. It was very inspirational. So that was good. Like, it was a marker on the calendar I could look forward to,
Mhm.
and then, yeah, so, like, just having Cinco de Mayo, I think a lot of people we had Italian, I don't know. Did you have Mexican last night? Did you do margaritas?
No, we had Italian too. We
Yeah,
did. We had lasagna. Actually,
yeah,
we didn't. I mean,
so did
Cinco de
we.
Mayo. Come on,
I
what's
know,
that?
but a lot of people, I think, were just like, hankering for, like, a good time and something to, like, be looking forward to, so
Yeah,
I saw it all over social media, so, it's kinda good that we're getting those little
you know,
break.
that's a purely American holiday, though.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's
so I
ridiculous.
have some friends from Mexico, and they go, "We don't do this." So you know,
Well, they had May the 4th and then Cinco de Mayo, and someone wrote, "What happens when May the 4th and Cinco de Mayo fall and during quarantine, it's Juan Solo." I
That's
thought that was
actually that's
I thought that
actually
was
pretty
cute.
good.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
I do like that. But
Yeah.
actually, Saturday was a pretty incredible day. So,
And then,
we
yeah,
were
the
at the
food drive,
church.
exactly.
We
Yeah.
were at 301 building. I got to
Yep.
see a lot of people I haven't seen
Yeah.
in a long time. It was great
Yeah.
to at least wave at them, speak to those who were bold enough to roll down the
Right?
window. We were all masked and
Yeah.
everything, but
I remember.
I think they barely recognized me. You put on mask and
I know,
glasses,
you can't tell who anyone is.
you don't look like yourself anymore. So
Yeah.
some people were like, "Oh, hey,"
Yeah.
but anyway, it was a lot of fun and it was really incredible. Right before that, so I shouldn't tell you this because it was kind of dangerous, but so Brett Flanders and I, we walked up on the roof.
Oh, okay.
I
Of
mean,
the
like
3
on
of
the
one or of the
like
main
on the
building?
no, the tip top of the roof and watched the flyover. It was really cool.
Oh, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
The
same
flyover
place,
was awesome, yeah.
same place we watched the space shuttle. So he's always up for an adventure like that.
Well,
And if
and
you,
there's a new building cam on the
oh, I
church,
know.
and so the other night with that crazy thunderstorm, Cyril pulled it up on his phone, and we were watching the lightning, like, in our backyard. It was pretty fascinating.
Alternative uses. Have you
Alternative.
seen the video with, Brett as the stormtrooper, uh, showing you the demonstration of what's happening? You gotta
Oh, I
watch that.
didn't
You
see
you
it.
gotta
Okay.
you
No,
gotta
I'm
go on
gonna
and
look
watch
for
that.
it.
It's on our website. I think it was on Facebook.
Okay.
So it's pretty, you can see Brett's best talents, sort of pointed out here. It's
Yeah,
really fun to watch, so be
that's
sure you
awesome.
get to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, what do you think about this weather? So we're about to have the coolest weather this weekend in like recorded
Not a fan.
history in May, which I think
48
is kind of weird.
degrees. It's
Yeah, it's gonna
insane.
be no, it's gonna be well in the daytime
Well,
maybe.
the
So
high is 48, sorry.
we
Yeah.
could get a frost
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday night.
We should probably be asking our guests tonight what that will do,
Well, I don't know.
but yeah.
We should.
Nuts.
But I think, for a lot of us, sort of the saving grace of this time has been the ability to walk outside and,
Yeah.
be in the beauty and splendor of spring, and that's not what we've had. So I wonder what our guests think about it. So, guys, we do some polling in the show always, and, this time we're gonna ask you and there are people now who have saved this link and they're already in.
Already in, ready.
Yeah, at
Okay.
least 2 people. I can't always tell by percentages. But here's your poll for tonight. Actually, there are several, but this is,
Yeah, here's
one of
one.
them. So you see how you can get on here. You can respond to pollev.com/Jim Balkum 277, or you can just text Jim Balkum 277 to 22333. And once you join, which many of you have already done, you can just answer A, B, C, D, or E. So how do you feel about this cool weather? So you can tell me that this is awesome. People have been actually texting me and saying, would you please give me my choice? Well, I don't know. I mean, I make these things up.
Ah!
So this is awesome. I need heat. Did we have a winter? I mean, how do you tell the difference between these
Yeah.
seasons.
Yeah,
I
true.
really don't know. Fall, winter, spring, all have felt exactly the same to me.
Yeah.
So this is the
More
thing I
rain
always
right
say:
now.
watch out for summer. If it's
Yeah.
cool now, it's going to be we'll
Hot.
pay, right? We got to
Yeah.
pay sometime. It's sort of a biblical theory of things.
Yeah.
It's going to be hot, 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 and then eat. Yeah, what difference does it make?
I'll
It's sort of
tell
like
you, I downloaded a new weather app called What the Weather or What the
yeah.
Forecast.
We'll come back to
And
this in a minute.
I gotta tell you, it has brightened my day because I actually don't like the weather. If you're asking me, I'm saying, "Where's the heat? Bring on some summer. It's May, for goodness sake." But my this app, What the Forecast, has PG, funny sayings. So when it tells you what the weather is for the day, it's always like a joke or something very funny, like how miserable it is outside. And it has brightened my day. So I feel less sad when I look at the fact that it's going to be raining or thunderstorming every day because it's got a funny joke in there for me.
Okay, well
So
that
I suggest that
works.
to
I mean,
anyone that needs a
I
little
kind of
lifting
feel
me up.
like the weather's kind of like this crisis. There's really nothing I can do about it
Yeah.
except
It's also very
adapt.
unpredictable.
I
These
can adapt. I can tell you my grass loves this weather.
Yeah,
Cool, you
it's
know,
been growing.
wet. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been going crazy. All right, so let's see
We
what
had
people are
another,
saying now.
oh, yeah. Well, I was gonna while we're pulling up the chart, we do have a fun, little shout out we wanted to do today
Absolutely. We talked
because
about this beforehand.
our very own, one of my favorite people, Miss Leighton McCann, if you're out there, got voted Falls Church City Teacher of the
And
Year.
Leighton, you should be out there. But she might be celebrating Teacher of the Year.
Teacher there,
So
and now she's entered to be the Washington Post Teacher of the Year. It's
which
amazing. It's
can we
awesome.
vote somehow? I mean, I think come
I
on.
don't know. Yeah,
That's
we
kind of
should see, and
obvious.
we'll send out that link. I think
And here's the other thing is we would have Leighton on to talk about
yeah.
this if she
She'll
would
kill
come
us
on
already
Soul
for doing this. Come
if
on.
she would come on Soul Cafe.
Yes.
All right, so we've
We
got
love
enough
you.
responses in to get some sense. This
Oh,
is
look at
awesome.
okay.
I kind of like cool weather personally. Like
I don't
the
mind the
heat,
coolness. It's the rain and the cloudy that brings me down.
it's gloomy, right?
Yeah.
So then a lot of people need heat. Did we have a winter? 10%? That's what I wonder. Watch out, summer's going to be hot. Let's see if it is. And then what difference does it really make? 5%. They keep moving. They keep moving. All right, we'll come back to it later.
I think it only
So,
matters how hot the summer's gonna be if none of the pools open.
well, they're going
I don't mind a hot summer as long as I can sit poolside, but
you,
that's
you,
gonna put a
you don't think they're going to be open somehow?
I mean, our pool is saying that they're just not sure. I saw another person saying the other day that they think their pool might not open till July. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's, we'll see how this slow roll open up looks, but
So my question is, and I think a lot of people. So what I'm hearing all the time, Aaron, now is when is church going to open? So
yeah,
people start talking about opening, and they're wondering. Of course, in Virginia, phase one is still 10 or less people. Phase two is 50 or less
yeah,
people,
yeah.
socially distanced. So you got to get them through the hallways, the entry points.
Right.
You got to figure out children, preschoolers. We're looking at a bunch of contingencies here.
Right.
And then the question is, what do we do about building? Should we just push forward and build, and we'll stay virtual until and get it done fast? That's a question. We're asking all these questions because your elders are really working on this. They're
Yeah.
working on risk assessment, contingency planning, and then there are just a ton of other questions. So how long will these phases be? And then phase three finally is we can have whatever social gatherings we want to, but we're supposed to be careful. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So people they're already pulling on this because I've presented it. So I'm asking people, when do you expect to be back in church? So let me ask you, Aaron, what you think before I put it up. So you can't see it
Well,
right now.
what do
So
I think
here are
about when
the
will be
answers.
versus what I want?
Well, what I want is yesterday,
Yeah.
right?
Uh,
So these are my choices.
I,
Okay,
yeah.
this weekend.
Let's see. Okay. No,
Okay,
that's not.
sometime in June, later in the summer, fall maybe, or sometime in 2021. So what
I
do
mean,
you?
I guess if I was a betting woman, I'd say fall. My preference would be June.
Okay, so if you had to answer this, you'd say fall. Your preference would be June. And some people, of course, anybody who answers this weekend is saying this is
Yeah.
ridiculous, right? I mean, there are a certain number of people who think that this is just crazy. And like I said, I just tell those people when I talk to them. So some of you are on here, there's nothing I can do about this. It is out of my control. And once I just release it and say we've got to adapt, that's the best we can do. So what answer do you think got the most responses?
I bet 2021.
Do you think 2021? It did at first, but now there's something
Okay.
creeping up on it. So let's see. Let's see what's on there now. Actually, it just keep this one's moving
Will this
faster
show
than
us how many optimists versus pessimists we have?
I don't know. This is
That's a
moving
good way
this
to
is
do that.
moving faster than anyone we've ever had, which means it's getting more responses. So people are
Can't see it.
really
I can't
really
see it.
interested in this.
All right, here we go.
So right now, later this summer and fall maybe is fall maybe is now jumped up, and sometime in 2021 had the most early responses. So pessimists know how to get online faster. I think that's what we can show. So this one just keeps moving. People are really hitting on this
Here
one.
we go.
Let's go back and see what the other
Paul,
one
looks
is.
like Paul. Oh,
Let's
yeah.
go back and see where that one wound up, and we'll come back
Cool
to this one.
weather.
Yeah, let's see. So
Oh, goodness, my dog's about to go crazy because
so
there's
that people still responding to that one. So people need heat, basically. Are you
yeah,
there?
I'm here. I'm just there is someone at my
Yeah.
door. Hold on a second.
It's Amazon. It's your Amazon delivery. Okay, so Erin has left to pick up her Amazon package. Meanwhile, I think the most people think fall maybe. I think you guys are being realistic. Um, I'm sad to say because if it were up to me, we would be back together this Sunday. Actually, if it were up to me, we'd been together on Easter and before that. But man, it's going to be really interesting. I said this early on to Aaron. It's way easier to shut things down than it is to open them back up. Do
Yeah.
you remember that? The
Yep.
first week,
I
very
think
first
we'll
week.
have it phased.
I think that's going to prove to be true in our entire economy and our entire culture. That
Yeah. It's
it's
gonna be
going to be
slower.
and it's going to be polarized. People's ideas about these things, what they heighten. So let me tell you my latest observation. Maybe I'll make this in sermon, but this pits. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah.
You get to the top,
Yep.
self-actualization. So your needs are below that. Your basic human needs are met. You can eat. You have a shelter over your head. So when you get to that, guess what the number one and two that Maslow defined were?
I think it's food. Wait, food and shelter.
Yeah, no, it's food and economic well-being.
Yeah.
So financial health and food. I mean, and health. And so this thing pits those two against each other. And I think we've got a group of people who prioritize one and a group of people who prioritize the other, and some people who can't decide. And so when I watch Donald Trump speak, and people think he contradicts himself, I think he is so on his sleeve that he shows us this internal conflict that he himself has between those two things.
Yeah.
And
We
so,
were, we were talking about it in a group of us the other day when we were also talking about, everyone's making different decisions and how do you rationalize the decisions you're making. And I loved the way, I think it was Ashley Davis that said this. I'll give her credit, props here on Soul Cafe for calling it like everyone's making trade offs. So,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I don't even know if the prioritizations are happening hard and fast. I think in the moment people are
I
prioritizing.
totally agree. And even one day
Yeah.
I feel one way,
Yeah.
doggone it, let's open this thing up. And the next day I go,
Yeah. Yeah.
people I
And it's
love are at
hard.
stake. It's
Hard because,
very hard. It is
you
very
know,
hard. This moment, I think, is pointing out a lot about us.
yeah.
And my whole thing the whole time has been, Lord, what does this reveal about me? All right, let's get the final result on that
All
particular
right.
poll because it's still been moving.
I gotta give a quick shout out
So,
to Casey Miner because he was the gentleman who just came to my door and he was so sweetly offering donuts, but I had to shoo him away. So Casey, I'm sorry.
well, Casey,
But why aren't you watching Soul Cafe right
Casey
now?
should be watching Soul Cafe. I thought it was an Amazon delivery person
No, it
because
was he had delicious looking glazed crullers. Is that what they're called? And I was
and
so
you turned
badly
them away.
well, I was like, I'm on Soul Cafe. I gotta run.
I would be
Poor
eating
guy.
one right now on screen if he Casey,
I
if you'll come to my
know.
house, please.
Oh goodness.
You know where I live.
It was very hectic.
Come to my
But who are
house.
you
I'll eat
talking
one on screen. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So 38% say fall, maybe.
Yeah.
23% say a lot of people responded to this one. I can look at the numbers. It's the highest response we've ever gotten to a poll. What does that tell you about what people are thinking about? So
Yeah.
23% said later this summer. 19% say sometime in 2021, sometime in June, and those who were just saying, "Doggone it, what did open things up?"
Yeah.
They're
I'm
saying,
assuming fall, maybe everyone's assuming it will follow the same pattern of schools.
"Yeah." Hey,
Yeah.
let's pull in an interesting interview. You want to?
Yeah.
So,
Let's
this
go.
is one I've been working on for a few weeks. We had to get him to feel well enough to do it. So, he's the answer to a trivia question for me. So, people kept asking me, do we have anybody with COVID-19? Do you know anybody with COVID-19? For the first couple of weeks, I couldn't say that we did. And then all of a sudden, we had someone.
Right.
and this is the person, and many of you know him. And so this is Jim Fry, our good friend. He's an elder in our congregation. He's been an active
Hi,
part of
Jim.
Columbia for a really long time, and Jim is a COVID survivor. You can say that, Jim.
Yeah.
You are a COVID survivor.
Don't
So
hurry.
let's see if we can figure out your story, because I've heard it and prayed for you and talked with you dozens of times. But let's start from the beginning. How did you discover that you hoped to be a COVID survivor?
Well, I guess it all started with trying to be a COVID avoider.
Yeah.
In that Linda was working at the hospital trying to remain as safe as she could.
Now
And
she is a but for people who are watching who don't know you guys, she is a pediatric NICU doctor. So she's on the front line.
Anna Claire had 2 weeks off for spring break, and we were about to go on the college tour up and down the East and West Coast to end all tours. And we all know that ended. And so
Mhm.
we have a rental property on the Georgia coast. And so I said, Anna Claire, why don't we go down for about a week and a half? And we left on Thursday the 19th. We brought all our food and coolers. We were very careful at gas stations. We didn't eat. We got to our house. We're doing pretty good. Beautiful weather. Sunday morning, Anna Claire woke up with high fever, all the COVID symptoms. And so she was done with it by Wednesday. But on Wednesday, and I'd put her in isolation as any good husband of a neonatologist would do to their children, and left her food at her door. But I started feeling bad, and just not very, more of where I just feel horrible. And I had a fever. So I went to the urgent care on Friday, and they decided not to test me for COVID. Then I think testing was harder to happen, but they tested me for the flu, and they decided I had the flu.
And
And
you
so,
so that I talked to you that day, and we were relieved,
yeah,
right? Because I mean, I was like praying, Lord, don't let it be COVID. So you texted me and said, "Good news, it's the flu."
right.
And
But
then
I got no better, and kept monitoring my fever, because I knew I needed to usually report. Whenever I reference my sweet wife, I mean it in a positive way, and that she was a good accountability of, trying to me to keep track when what my fever was and stuff. But on Monday, I started feeling a lot worse, and by that afternoon, I had this point where I felt very emotional and I felt worse, and I just started crying uncontrollably, which to me was kind of a new thing. And Linda was at work. I got her on the phone, and she said, "You need to get Anna Claire to take you to the hospital." And so my wonderful now 17-year-old took me to the hospital and dropped me off at the entrance, as you were only allowed to do. And so that's when I started the journey. I don't know if I've ever felt so bad that day.
so I talked to you from that parking lot, and you were very short of breath, and you at that point were actually fairly convinced that it was COVID. And then what? Hours later, maybe the next morning, we had a sort of a confirmation that that was that. So you were in the hospital for how many days?
Went in Monday and I got to get out Friday afternoon.
Which 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 didn't mean you were well.
No, I mean, felt it was kind of dubious to leave. Um, After I'm home, I feel much more fortunate when I read other stories. Um, I mean, when I was there, it's just so hard to breathe, and any movement I would make, I would go in coughing fits. And I questioned whether, I would see my family again and whether I'd come out of this. I'm not trying to be melodramatic, but that's kind of where I
No,
was at.
no, yeah.
At the same time, I didn't feel alone. I felt God's presence. I felt somewhat calm about it. I just couldn't talk or breathe. And so they did not have to put me in the ventilator. I was the first hospital's first COVID patient. I was in a reverse,
Actually, the first in that county, right?
yeah, and I was in a reverse air room, and the nurses would take care of me pretty well. I learned later in the week that they were only allowed so many minutes in my room. because one of them confessed to me that she actually sat outside my door, and the coughing almost drove her wild, and my sounds I would make. But she knew that I would push the button, and I did. And so when I got out on Friday, I probably had more of the mentality that this was could be over in several weeks, and I would be having it all back together. So my Anna Claire picked me up at the hospital, and I went back to our house on the Georgia coast. And for the first probably week to 10 days, really just stayed in my room. Anna Claire brought me food. She was doing her online schoolwork. Linda would try to talk to me. Um, I could barely talk and felt worse when I talked. So after I was there about a week, the clinic had me come in, start doing follow up, and really realized that I had very low oxygen levels. And so Aaron, I know you have an interest in these devices. I have my pulse oximeter where I can
Aaron has a house full of those devices.
And
Just
I
one
really-
pulse ox.
they went ahead and did an overnight sleep study, and all of my numbers for oxygen were in the toilet, especially when I slept. Also, my heart stuff wasn't quite right when I slept either. So I got on to where I had to start doing oxygen, which I still am whenever I sleep or nap. And I have to monitor my oxygen numbers each day, and or not each day, every several hours. And if they get really low, I either have to go to the ER or I have to put on my oxygen. And you know which option I choose. I don't want to go back to hospital. I don't have any feelings that I was not taken care of well. I just don't want to go there. And in my follow-up visit with the pulmonologist, by then I was COVID negative and Linda could come down. Linda and I were supposed to have gone on a marvelous trip to the Holy Land.
Which, can you believe we didn't get to do that? But it's rescheduled for January. Hopefully we get to go.
And she had moved all of her time and made all these wild trades and had 3 weeks off. So I was finally COVID negative, and she's been down here. She's in her 3rd week right now. And
That turned out to be providential. That we had planned that trip to the Holy Land and
it was
couldn't do
providential.
it. And by the way, I'm pretty sure you couldn't have gone to the Holy Land.
No, I couldn't have, and she couldn't have either. But I think the first day here, she got to go to the pulmonologist with me, and he explained a lot to me in explaining my X-rays. And that you look at my lungs, it's like I've had viral pneumonia, but I didn't have a normal viral pneumonia. And he thinks if anybody tells me they know what's going to happen, they're lying, or they're full of maybe pride. I don't know, because there's not a lot of research out. So we have more the mindset that this is going to be months and not weeks. I try to challenge myself each day with two long walks. I really get to do an errand a day. And so if I get to go to the grocery store, it really needs to involve only 5 items or less. I broke that rule this afternoon on the way back from the dentist because I lost a crown yesterday. And I was like at the register panting, like, what did I do again?
Wow. It's incredible. So people are saying like this is no different than the common flu. Now, I assume you've had the common flu.
Yeah.
Is it similar?
No, it's very hard. It's very hard. And one thing that's the hardest is sometimes taking my oxygen rates throughout the day, because I have to really pray that I won't tie my emotions to how I'm doing at that particular moment.
Yeah.
But Linda and I started talking last week about how this was really months, not weeks. And I needed to get off any timetable in my mind, and that I needed to do what I could do. And I'm alive. I'm very thankful to be alive. And
I'm thankful you are too.
Where this house is on the Georgia coast, we have weather in the 70s. It got 80s yesterday, and the day before was kind of hot.
You're not allowed to talk about this.
Yeah, I was about to say, now, Jim, you're getting on the bad side now.
What I'm trying to say is that I had this lovely place to walk, and there's nobody on this island.
Yeah.
Except some owners of these houses, because there's a big resort on this island that shut down April 1st.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's nobody so I don't have to go out. I still have to wear my mask. And down here, they don't wear masks as much as in Virginia. You know, because now the issue is when I'm out in public, I cannot get sick
Right.
from somebody else.
Yeah.
My body.
Yeah.
Now,
Any sickness right now would be
any
dangerous for you.
sickness.
Yeah.
And Linda's assessment last week was that I was probably at 25% of my normal activity. It may be higher now. I don't know. I think she's probably right. In some ways, I feel better if I just do what I can do. I had to make the decision in the last week that I wasn't going to teach with American University the next term that starts in June because it just was too much.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize what a good decision that was until I told my boss, and I did it. And then it was like this relief that I'm focused on what I need to do to get better and try to keep a positive attitude and my sense of humor. Now, I will tell you, we're on a roll in the Fry household. Ethan came down with Linda. So Ethan and Anna Claire have been doing their online schoolwork. I think we're down to the whole time we've had a family dinner the same time at the same table. I think we're now into almost 3 weeks of it in a row.
It's a record,
It's a record.
which I think actually a lot of us are kind of rediscovering right now
And that's
in
probably the
this.
commonality I might have with everyone else is
Right.
that I'm at home and there's great blessings in being with your family.
Yes, there are.
There's greater blessings when you've been really sick and then you're with your family.
So, Jim, two questions that occurred to me before this. First of all, I think to look death in the face changes some things. And you're a person of tremendous faith. I know your faith. And having prayed with you when you were at the bottom and didn't know what would happen, and now to be on this side, how does having seen death in the face and thought about it, how does that change things for you?
I think it makes me even more confident that no matter what tomorrow brings, it'll be okay. I think it also tries to help me see not to worry about so many things that may be small
Hmm.
and to be kinder and kinder as much as I can.
Which is hard to do because you've always been pretty kind, in
Yeah.
my
I was
opinion.
gonna say.
I think that would be how I would have described you before this. So if
Yeah.
you're even kinder, I'm not going to know what to do with you.
I don't know if Linda would always say that or Anna Claire either.
Well, we don't ask them.
When I'm
That's
in
not how it
uh,
works.
We don't have to live with you, Jim. We just know you. So
now, and I'm gonna probably get in big trouble over this, but I have a major shout out to Anna Claire,
yeah.
who got in adult mode. Who, I mean, she was already in adult mode from my perspective of working in part time at Columbia and getting herself to school, but she took care of me.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things when we see our kids begin to grow up and when they assume a posture we haven't seen before. And we look back and think about, there were moments we all wondered if that would happen for any kid, and they all of a sudden take on this adult posture. So that's really cool.
And
So
then,
what would you say to people about, I'm sorry, go ahead and then.
then to get Anna Claire, then to get Linda and Ethan here, it's just like I couldn't ask for a better blessing right now.
It's amazing that we'd planned that trip. I think it was providential. Maybe we did it just for you. And then what would you say to people about, how should we think about this virus? I mean, it seems to affect so many people so differently, and the medical community is just now figuring out how to deal with it. What thoughts have you had about it? Seems polarizing. It's a strange moment. People who take it very lightly, people who take it maybe it's one extreme to the other. What do we do with this moment in our history?
I don't think we can take it lightly. And I don't know whether my sister is listening to this, but my sister is several years older than me and has significant asthma issues and breathing issues. And the first day I was home from the hospital, I was on the phone with her with what voice I had saying, you know, I don't want you to go to the grocery store anymore. I want you to take this very seriously. Because if here I am, I mean, I'm not perfect health, but I didn't have any significant heart or lung issues before this, that you need to take it seriously. But on the other hand, you need to do all you can do. You need to
Yeah,
wash your hands, wear your mask, and then I don't think you can live in a constant state of worry.
right. I totally agree.
I
Fear
mean,
fear is not helpful.
no,
It's sort of precaution and move on with life as best we can, as we can. So, Jim, you've been an inspiration. First of all, you're a good friend before this, and as I said, you're an elder at Columbia. You've continued to attend meetings even when you haven't felt well. So, thank you for being there virtually. But we're doing a lot of work to try to prepare our church for this, and it's hard. So, we asked a question earlier about when people expected to come back, and these are tough questions. I want people to recognize how much the leaders of our church are wrestling with doing exactly the right thing. And anyway, I want to thank you for your being with us tonight and for sharing this. And we're still praying for you, and we love
Uh,
you.
And I just want to shout out to all the people that have been emailing and texting me.
It's a
And
lot. A lot
it's
of
been
people have.
a wonderful thing. It's been just a wonderful thing.
Well, thanks so much, Jim, for being with us. And
Jim.
it's just, I can't wait to see you in person. When you coming home?
Well, I have this cardiology thing going on Friday that may lead to some other stuff. So I hope by the end of the next week, we just have to see. Linda needs to go back to work, so she and Anna Claire are driving home on Mother's Day. But Ethan is still here trying to finish up the semester.
Well, come back when you can. We miss
Okay,
you.
I will.
All right, brother. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, it's fascinating, right, Aaron?
Yeah, totally.
So I know a number of others now, and I have already performed a funeral for a person who died of COVID, senior adult. But I didn't know before Jim anybody who'd had it.
Yeah.
So the next question that I asked on our poll set us up for what you have prepared for us tonight, Aaron. And so I want to ask people. I've asked people, why did Jesus change water to wine? Some people are just jumping on this, but a lot of people jump ahead, I'm finding now. So, people like Gus Mancuso, I'm pretty sure he's always the first responder on here. Well, why did Jesus change water to wine? So, first of all, because God changes water to wine every day. Give that some thought, okay? He does this every day, and Jesus just accelerated the process. Second, he like a good party. C, because he could. I'm surprised no one's giving that answer.
Yeah.
It's a good answer, actually. Uh, D, to prove a truth, and E, to show how plain things could become amazing. I would say D and E are close to each
Yeah.
other, actually. But, I wanted to give some people that's your biblical out there. So we'll come back to this one in a couple of minutes when our attendees can see it, who will become panelists in a moment, because he could. Thank you. It's such a
Yeah,
good
there you go.
answer.
Someone
I
did it.
like that answer in some ways. All right. So who do you have for us tonight?
We actually have a returning panelist from Soul Cafe. Just about a year ago, he was mentioning John Hickox. He is the owner of the winery at Bull Run, but he also owns Colonial Remodeling, and he's a big Civil War history buff. So I think a lot of people who got to see him in person last year loved having him there because he brought us a bunch of relics that he discovers on all of his hunts and everything. There's John, and then we have Wayne Mills coming on, and he is the vigneron. I think I'm saying that right. My very French accent, that's terrible. So he is responsible for picking what grapes. Well, he's not the winemaker. He's the man that makes the plants work so that we can actually have the winemaker make
Yeah,
the
first time
wine.
I've met Wayne. What a nice guy. I
Yeah,
told him earlier I was the pastoron of Columbia.
pastoral. Yeah, the vigneron and the
Yeah,
pastoron
exactly.
online here. Yeah, and the owneron from John, and then I'm just sidekick peanut gallery. But yeah, we had them on. And actually, Wayne, you had a fun story about how you knew Columbia Baptist. Would you share that real quick? Because that was kind of fun when you realized the connection.
Yeah, years ago, I ran a greenhouse business in Fairfax. And there was an older gentleman that would come out from Columbia Baptist Church, generally Christmas Eve. And we would donate all of our leftover poinsettias to the church, and they would give them to the shut-ins in the area. They used to bring big platters of food and feed the whole greenhouse crew.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That was just a kind of a side note when John told me which church this was.
Yeah.
What kind of food did they bring? Just out of curiosity, because I got to see if it was Baptist food.
Like was lasagna and peach cobbler and just good food.
Okay,
I love it.
Yeah, we always look forward to it.
We did do in May, or actually it was in April. We started some series. We're off a little bit on when our panelists can join us, but it was Earth Day in April, and we started talking about horticulture, and we had a master gardener on here, Brad Willett, who a lot of people loved hearing from. And in my mind, when I think gardening and growing and agriculture, I think vineyards eventually. And I've always just been fascinated with John's business and the fact that he not only just found this like awesome spot right next to Bull Run, but that he would have ventured into winemaking in an area that might not be typically thought of as a wine spot. But John, you actually were the one who educated me on Virginia was the first place wine was ever grown in the United States. Is that right?
That's correct. In fact, if you look back at the writings of Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and kind of the top five resources, natural resources in the New World, and as they're planning this new republic, were grapevines. And so they figured if they could grow grapes in the New World, that would put America on the world stage as a just another finished product that we could make. But also, if you dig deeper into the readings, they were really worried about their fellow man getting into the spirits, the liquor, that was very damaging on the domestic front, but also in productivity. So growing grapes and making wine in the New World would solve economic and domestic strife, if you would.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that. So I'm just so curious, Wayne, like how you took a background running a greenery and would you call yourself a horticulturist? Is that what I don't know what all the proper names are. I know that you're a vigneron now, but.
Yeah, I'm a horticulturist. I operated nurseries. I like to tell the story that I took a part-time job when I was in high school and did it for 40 years. And I'm still doing it now. But yeah, I'm a horticulturist. And, the difference between growing wine grapes and growing other things is, about 10% difference. There's really not a lot of difference. I had to just tweak what I already knew.
Interesting. So was working at the Bull Winery at Bull Run the first time you ever worked in growing grapes in Virginia, or had you had a history doing that?
No, I've never grown grapes before. I've been following the whole progress of wine growing and growing grapes in Virginia for about 15 or 20 years. And when John said, "Hey, I'm going to start a vineyard up here and I need to get some grapevines, can you help me out?" So he would give me these frantic phone calls. I think he had his first planting up there was 50 vines. And I remember one time he called me, there's worms eating it. What do I do for the worms? And then it was these Japanese beetles and, it was the whole thing. And John was running up there back and forth with a little tank.
Like, hurry up and hire me full time already, man.
No, I think what I would have said in that circumstance is, what's your price today? And then when the worms came, it gets higher. And every plague that comes, the price gets higher, right?
Yeah.
What that was quite an experience for John. I don't know that he'd ever, even had a modest garden before. From that, and then after those first 50 vines, he planted 2 acres there, and then from there he planted 30 acres. I mean, it went from a very small start to a really big leap.
I think from what I've already learned about John, just getting to know him the time he was at Columbia, he's pretty bold. If he decides to do something, he's going to do it and nobody's going to stop him. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I've always said about John, I've known him for a long time. John always takes calculated risks.
Yeah.
And he's been very successful, but by following that, he takes a risk, but he generally looks at it pretty closely before he does it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So John, is the winery, it's closed right now, or how's that working out? I understand you're doing like virtual tastings and stuff like that, but.
Correct. We've got, our offerings are, I jokingly refer to as a brew-through, so a drive-through wine pickup. We also do delivery within 15 miles and shipping. And then around that, we're promoting those wines and others by doing a once-a-week virtual tasting and every other week virtual tasting for our wine club members. So that kind of pulls people in. We've even done blind tastings where you'll get a 3-pack with number 1, 2, and 3. And my winemaker will walk you through the tasting notes, and you'll have to, people will
see if you know your stuff
and stuff like that.
You get a chance to show off and see if you know what you're doing. So it's not the same as being live, though, is it?
No,
it's just not the same. So it's like church.
It's 80% of our revenue is visitation, the experience, people getting in the outdoors and seeing it. And so, this is while we're having fun with it, we're making the most of it. It's devastating. It's devastating for the morale of our staff, devastating for our customers, and devastating financially for the business.
And just not the same as seeing the crowd. Right?
No, absolutely not.
So I looked at your website, and you guys had some musical events before this. You'd have like wine stuff, and musicians would come in and play, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna try to make you feel at home here. I've saved this until right now, Aaron. So we have a musician who plays for us here, and he would be great to come out to Bull Run sometime. Just gonna tell you, okay? So Aaron we're going to pretend that we're at your place and that we're going to hear a live show for a minute. He's going to sing a song or two, and then we'll come back to you. You'll be on screen, not to worry.
I have my bottle of water in the magic.
Okay, all right. So you can just pretend that this is it. So this is our good friend Aaron Torgerson. And he's big bluegrass and stuff that would fit well at the winery, right,
Yeah.
Aaron?
Awesome. We have a bluegrass festival every
And
year. So.
he will work for wine. This is the thing about Aaron you need to know. And if he won't, Mandy will make him.
I was just about to say,
Better.
Andy will make it.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
appreciate wine. I am a beer guy. I hope you won't hold that against me. But
Well, I'm not going to make John reveal anything, but maybe
All right,
there.
what do you got for us tonight, Aaron? We're all going to listen to you, and we're going to come back and talk some more.
so we have something that is not even remotely similar to bluegrass or country music for you tonight.
Well, that's new. That's new. And
Yeah.
if it's not sad either, it'll be none of your big three.
No, it's not sad. I don't think it's sad.
All
Is
right.
it sad? Don't make us sad.
Yeah. Well, you'll see. You
All
probably
right.
know
See
this
if you
song.
can guess the reference too.
Yep.
The movie reference.
This song is called Far Kingdom. There is a far, far kingdom a ways from here, beyond the storm and the sea. There will be no need of darkness and none for tears when that far kingdom I see. There's a river we will know, ever clear, ever flowing, and the fount that overflows in the light of the King. And when we drink it, we will find that this joy ever full will ever rise, and it'll rise on in the kingdom, in the kingdom. There is a far kingdom on the other side of the glass, and by faint light we see. Still there is no more gladness, longing for the sight than to behold or be filled by anything. There is a far, far kingdom there at the end of the sea, where they know my name. And until that far kingdom calls me home, oh my soul, I will wait for the river we will know, ever clear, ever flowing, this joy ever full ever rise, and it'll rise up in the kingdom, in the kingdom. And it'll rise on in the kingdom, in the kingdom.
Love it. So
Thanks.
what was the movie reference? I didn't get it.
I don't. Well, there's a book reference. So the people who
Oh,
wrote
okay.
the song are like huge Narnia fans. I guess.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yes, Lewis. Yeah. The name of the band is called the Grey Havens. And I
Okay.
think it came out in like 2015 or something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, they're a Christian band. But yeah, I ran across this song. Kind of funny story about it. I ran across this song on a Christianity Today podcast that was about the oh my gosh, I'm totally forgetting the name of the book now. A Pilgrim's Progress. It was about a Pilgrim's Progress, and they walked through the whole book. It was super interesting. And I actually went out and bought a copy of A Pilgrim's Progress, and the thing's about 6 inches thick, and it's like
It's on our coffee table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, they played this song over and over. I was like, oh man, I have to do that song sometime. And Mandy actually picked it up on it, and she's like, yeah, I love it. So anyway, that's why I did it. Yeah.
It was good. I expected it to be like in an independent film, like a Juno or something like that. It sort of to me, it had that vibe.
Yeah.
One of those kind of movies. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
What do you think, John?
Sound very good together.
Yeah.
Time together right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, exactly. You're practicing as a family. You're getting the songs down straight. So we
right.
love it. Did you have a second song for us, or we're gonna switch?
No, that's it. That's it.
Okay. Well,
Thank
thank you so much for joining us. We
Thank you
appreciate
for having
Jim,
us.
I think is on. We've got Jim on mute, so I don't know if he. Oh, he just dropped him off. Okay, there you go.
On mute.
Well,
So there you
worked.
go. All that I was saying didn't work.
Oh yeah, we didn't
so I
hear
was just
anything. Sorry.
yeah. Okay. So didn't hear any of it. I thought I was being responded to, and I wasn't. So let's take a look at this poll again one time, because I think this is really interesting. So I want you guys to see this. So we've asked people, why did Jesus change water to wine? So a lot of people don't think about this, Aaron, but you've got to give it some thought. So listen, Jesus' first miracle was changing water to wine at Cana of Galilee. The last night he was with his apostles, the night he was betrayed, he took wine and he used it to offer the Lord's Supper, as we call it today, and he called it his blood. So his ministry is bookended in many ways by this amazing process of water to wine. And as I always preach and say, listen, people are starting to respond that way now. God changes water to wine every single day. Wayne doesn't do it, as gifted as clearly he is, and John doesn't do it. It's a natural process that we shepherd and steward. And Jesus just took a natural process, something that God does in creation every day, because in my view, creation, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And he accelerated it to show the power of God and what God had done in creation, to take something so ordinary and to make it something extraordinary. So that's what I think you guys are about, is trying to take something that's fairly ordinary and to turn it into something that to human beings in the image of God is extraordinary. And I just wonder, I'm sure that neither of you speak of this in biblical terms very often, but I wonder if you think about that. This is shepherding a process that God created. Just my thought.
Well, it's an interesting concept. And, when you mentioned it, when we were talking a little while ago, started thinking about it, he turns water into everything, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the number one.
And ordinary people into extraordinary people, and
Exactly.
ordinary things and ordinary moments, or even things that we think are horrible moments like this. He takes them and he makes them something amazing. And I'm positive that God's up to something in this moment. So, it's just, I think the process of water to wine it's a picture of a miracle every day, and we miss miracles around us every day. So I always think it's interesting to talk about this
Well,
process. And
considering that you're talking about creation, just as a segue, because I think it's interesting that to your point, Wayne and his team is ushering in a process that, of course, is there, photosynthesis and everything else and the way that things grow. But you do still, from a human perspective, are having to choose like which weathers and climates and terroir, as they call it, how to figure out like from your knowledge of creation what can grow where and how can it be productive, and you wouldn't grow every grape here but you would grow some. And then is it Ashton is your winemaker, so he's who takes
Correct.
Wayne
Yes.
produces and then ushers along the process of fermentation. But how did you especially considering that you said that you've never been in doing wine before, how did you start to decide what grapes you could actually grow here in Virginia, and how do you, or maybe John, you made that decision and then made Wayne figure it out after the fact, which probably sounds more correct. But what does the Virginia terroir produce for us? What's the best grapes?
Wow. We can grow, we're blessed with a long growing season here. What is the best grapes to grow here? We're still trying to figure that out. I think the whole industry in Virginia is still trying to figure that out. The issue we have here is weather, of course.
Yeah.
We're having the coldest April we ever had. And then it looks like this weekend is going to be the coldest.
Yeah, you may get frost this weekend.
Yeah,
Is that
Thursday.
crazy?
Yeah.
First
We've
time in recorded history.
We've already had a devastating frost on the 8th, 17th, and 18th of April. The vines were about 2.5 weeks ahead of where they should have been in development. And we had 28 degrees for about 5.5 hours on Friday morning, which was the 17th. And then Sunday morning, we had 27.5 degrees for about 3 hours. It really knocked the socks, to put it lightly, out of this growing season. We probably lost half of some varieties.
Wow.
Other varieties came through fine, unscathed.
Can you do anything to protect your crops when that happens?
On the scale that we're doing it, it's kind of difficult because we're so big. We've got, all told right now, we've got 49 acres of grapes. And just the topography of the land, we would need a lot of these wind turbines and things like that to try to mitigate any frost damage. But there's a difference between a frost where it gets below freezing for an hour and a half, and a freeze where it stays below freezing for several hours. So it comes down to simple economics. You invest in something you may need once every 5 or 6 years, and it may not work when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of roll the dice and take your chances on growing grapes here. Last year we had a fantastic growing season. We produced a lot of really, really good wines from last year. The year before, we fought with the historic rains. We had 84 inches of rain. Mm-hmm. Which was devastating to the whole industry in Virginia. Very few vineyards that in 2018 were able to get a good crop of red grapes,
and yet 2017 was one of the best years, wasn't it?
2017 was a good year.
Yeah.
So it's challenging. It's farming. I always say that when a farmer or anybody plants a seed, you got faith that you're going to get something out of that. And Mother Nature comes along and says, not this year. It's not going to be that easy. Mm-hmm. So you say, okay, well, there's always next year. It's kind of like being a Redskins fan. There's always next year.
No. Those two things are not comparable. I heard a joke the other day that the NFL's thinking about doing a season without any fans in the stadium, so they're consulting with the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, exactly.
So, John, what made you want to get into this, especially in this region? It's not an easy place. What made you wake up one morning and decide, I think I want to take a historic property and turn it into a vineyard?
Well, it was a long journey. A lot of it is chasing my youth. We're joking about construction and what that has to do with vineyards, but my best memories were at my friend's grandfather's farm that I worked at, and he was my mentor out in Loudoun County. And my job was to help get the cornfields. This is feed corn for the cattle. And I just loved being on the tractor, whether I was plowing, disking, planting, harvesting. I just love that. There was something very, I guess today we would call it zen-y, but for me, that was where my I just felt at ease and peaceful. And that's when I was like 13. When I got older, Wayne and I also used to do a lot of deer hunting together. So we would have these food plots where you would grow food for the animals. And so I got to play, miniature farmer on a smaller level. So anyhow, by the time we got into, I guess it was 12 years ago, where I came up with this winery, I already had somewhat of a green thumb. And I thought, well, if I could combine agriculture and tourism and sales and location, this particular piece of property would be a great bet. So anyhow, I have property all around Virginia. That's what I invest my money into. I read a book on George Washington about he was always poor, but he was land rich. So that's a good way to kind of build up your investment portfolio. So this particular piece of property that I had, I started thinking as I went to wineries that were an hour and a half away, I thought, well, wait a second. I know I can grow stuff there. I know I can clear the land. I know it's very accessible. It's close in. And I see all these other wineries doing it and they're way far out. What about bringing that experience closer in and kind of a nod to the agricultural past of the area? So those are kind of the forces that led me to think that I should do this. How I did it financially and everything else, we don't have 12 hours to discuss that.
But it's pretty cool that you were able to turn to a friend of yours and Wayne, that you were able to like apply the horticulture. I mean, I think it gives everyone who was watching our Master Gardener back in April and now talking to you like hope. I mean, could people plant vineyards in their backyards here in like Arlington and Falls Church?
You sure could. It would be challenging.
Yeah.
It would be challenging. This is, the problem with growing grapes here is more how wet it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Grapes love to be watered in April, May, and early June. Then they want to be dry. That's why last year was such a great year to grow grapes. But the mid-Atlantic states, we get hurricanes. We have hot, humid conditions. We have thunderstorms sometimes, multiple times in a week. Those things right there, you can deal with hot, but dealing with the wet is the hardest, the biggest issue.
Interesting.
In a year like this, it's been cold. It was extremely warm in March, then extremely cold in April. So,
I just said a little while ago, fall, winter, and spring have all felt about the same. How can we tell?
Like right.
That's a weird Virginia year because usually we get 4 distinct seasons.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that that the whole picture you guys are presenting is such an amazing illustration with what it means to live life in this world, because we're always wrestling with natural forces that are shifting and changing. So this whole coronavirus thing is like a freeze that you didn't expect. It just comes. What are you going to do? You have to adapt. So we're always cooperating with the earth and working with the earth, and we're always fighting against these natural forces that take us by surprise. So I think that farmers in some ways have a better sense of this than anyone else, and maybe owners of vineyards too. I think there's something that we miss now when we go to a store shelf and we pick off a piece of meat. We don't even know the animal. I'm like you, John. I grew up hunting, both of you guys. We don't even know anything about the animal it came from. We pick off produce. We don't know anything about the earth it came from. We think of these as manufactured products, which they're not. These are natural products of the earth. So I think there's something to just being able to roll with it, adapt to whatever God brings our way in what's been created and the natural boundaries of it. So I wonder how much just to ask you to be doing what you're doing. I know it's not fun right now, John. I'm sure you're sort of back in the mode of trying to figure out how do we make this work financially. This must be devastating for any small business. And but what's it like every day just to have to roll with whatever comes your way?
Well, the weird thing is, I guess I'm a glutton for punishment, because if I would have taken the money I invested or I made in construction and just put it in a fund, I would be further well off financially. But to me, life has always been a puzzle, and I like trying to solve problems. So when this COVID hit, I hate to say excited, because excited is not the word, but I felt, kind of the hair on the back of my neck stuck up a little. I was like, all right, I got this. I can figure this out, both from my construction business and my winery business. So that's how I look at this situation is, okay, this is God's plan. This is fate. This is whatever religion you are. We do not control these things. And you're right. As a farmer, you learn that lesson more so than anything else. You can't get mad when your crop is completely wiped out.
Yeah.
You don't control those things. But what do you control? So personally, I thought I was excited about the potential of technology, the yearning for customers to have some sort of, experience. I'm sure you are toying with the same problems. Like, how do you reinvent your church where there's connectivity and there's togetherness? And it was maybe in the same way you got excited about the potential in ways you could still connect, even given the extreme limitations of the crisis.
No, I actually, the night you were with us, I think I see life a lot like you do in some ways. For me, I can't control what I can't control. I have to let that go and adapt to it. But there's a lot I can't control. So to focus on those things, I don't know if exciting is the right word, but it's just life. It's what we do. So when I hear people push back against this, they wrestle with it, they're angry about it, or they have a political opinion one way or the other about it. I'm kind of like, that is such, to me,
It's such a waste of
a
energy.
waste of energy and time. Let's just roll with it and trust God and believe that we can bring something good out of it. And by the way, I think, John, you're saying the same thing I am. What can we learn? I always come out of something like this having learned something I never would have learned otherwise. And I don't think you learn without challenge. So I like your philosophy on that. How about you, Wayne?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's doing what I do is very humbling. I could be the best grower in the world, but I can't control the temperature. I can't control how much rain we get. So it's very humbling, but also what I do is also very satisfying. I see almost every sunset, and I have for the last 40 plus years. Every sunrise, I'm there for both of them. And I'm able to take my love of nature and my love of nurturing things and turn that into a living. And I could have done something else. I probably could have gone to college and become a computer guru. I don't know. But
Hey, Wayne, tell the story about your turkey hunt when you were. So Wayne, this embodies that. Sorry to cut you off. This is a beautiful story. Wayne is there at 3 a.m, starting fires throughout the vineyard, trying to keep the grapes from frosting. And then what happens? Talk about the tragedy and what it turned into.
Okay, well, I was there, like John said, trying to keep the burning fires to try to keep the vineyard from freezing. And it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'd done what I could do. I went down to the barn to get in my truck, and I heard a turkey gobbling down in the valley. So turkey season's in. I grabbed my shotgun, went over the hill, hid in the bushes, and
Love it.
called the yep, and I got a beautiful wild turkey out of the thing. That was the only good thing about that morning.
How many jobs are like that, right?
As the sun came up,
Jobs do that experience.
Yeah.
as the sun came up and I saw the damage that the cold had done, it was like, well, at least some good came out of this.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
You got to take it as it comes. Like John said, you can't be mad about it. You just got to deal with it. And tomorrow's another day. Next year there's another crop, and what we do this year will affect next year's crop. So
we're running. It's so much fun to talk to you guys. We could go way late. We're already a little late, but that's okay. I forgot to put up the question screen, and nobody's asked one in advance, but we took up all the questions tonight. But John, just how can we help small businesses like yours? What can we? This is a question I've been asking of everybody we've had on who has represented a business in our region. What can we do to help you? Obviously, we can pray for you, but what can we physically do to help our businesses?
Well, and what your reopening is, because I think you are
that too.
actually.
We're opening up Friday. Well, actually, Friday we're doing a wine club thing to make sure we've got it right. But we're opening up a week from Saturday. So
And you're doing kind of the distancing thing and figuring out how to make that work.
Just reservations of tables in advance, not in the tasting room and the patio. But I would think, thank you for giving me that opportunity to plug it. But I actually forget my business for a moment. I think if we focus on small businesses in general, a lot of people work for the government or government contractors. And thank goodness for them, because they've had a steady paycheck. But the small businesses right now live in a totally different world, completely devastated. People like my little brother, a bartender, been out of work for 6 weeks. I think, to answer your question, how people could help small businesses is if they have a friend that owns a small business, just reach out to them, because I think they would really, you feel like an aloneness, right? And I think if you could reach out to friends that have a small business and just check in with them, a few friends have done that to me, people I haven't heard from in years, and that really warmed my heart. I would also say, economically, if people can reach out to friends that have a small business, maybe they own a kitchen or a restaurant, go out of your way to try to get takeout from them, because they also want to feel significant. And even if they're not making it financially, the fact that they can make this meal and provide it for a friend makes them feel significant. So those are just two little examples, I would think, both from a personal aspect and an economic aspect. If people can go that route instead of just the regular McDonald's or Domino's or however you order food, go out of your way. It's a little more difficult, but try to make a purchase from a small business, and that'll help them out. And so they can be there when we get back open.
Right.
That's helpful, and something we want to do. I mean, we feel like we're a part of the community, and frankly, some of the same things we experience in our work too, and what we do. So I understand everything you're saying. So I think for those of you, Columbia, if you can go out of your way, we've been saying this all along, find some small businesses and find a way to support them. And maybe John is one of those.
Yeah.
And
Do you have a virtual wine tasting this weekend?
Yes, we will
Yeah,
have
for everybody?
we will
Okay.
have a
I gotta
virtual
try one
wine
of these
tasting.
out finally. I'm ashamed to say I haven't done it yet, but
so your
wines.
your website is
winery@bullrun.com.
winery@bullrun.com.
Yes, sir.
All right. Hope you get a lot of hits after this.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you both. You're both fascinating. It's fun to
Yeah.
have you. Thanks for bringing Wayne along. That's a lot of fun.
yeah.
And hope to see you guys live and somewhere else soon other than this. This is all weird, on the screen. It works okay, but all right.
Yeah.
Aaron,
Okay,
thank you.
guys. Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I-
Yeah. It was
Thank you guys.
off,
Have a great night. And Aaron, we'll sign off with them. So Aaron,
Yeah.
thank you so much for setting this up. And
sure.
it's always fun to do
Always
Soul
happy to
Cafe
have
with
you.
you. And Columbia, we love you. We're praying for you and thinking about you. Have a great week. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.